Okay, let's see how we got on with this activity. Okay, key things to look at. If you're thinking about potential benefits of the proposed merger, one of the things that you might have mentioned would be economies of scale. Try and make sure that you consider specific ones. Okay, so it's important. Purchasing economies would be a good example, and obviously you can add a bit of detail to that. In terms of cost savings, again, rationalisation, an important one. So no need for duplicate departments. Try and think of examples, whether it's a HR department or whether you don't need two sets of managers, whatever it may be. In terms of competition, obviously that would be reduced and would mean that Sainsbury's and Asda would be better able to compete against the likes of Aldi's and Lidl's, and as a result of that, it would make them more competitive on price, and certainly at the bottom, that idea that it would be cheaper and quicker than organic growth certainly rings true. In terms of any drawbacks, obviously in terms of the industry, the Competition and Markets Authority may be concerned that there's less choice. If there's less choice, that means there may be less competition. With less competition, will there be as much efficiency? Probably not. There'll be greater market share, monopoly power, pricing power, maybe ability to collude. Could these become too big, so diseconomies of scale materialise? Significant job losses, you would imagine, certainly because of rationalisation. The Competitions and Markets Authority would be concerned, and indeed this was not allowed. So the CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority, poured cold water on this, and also in terms of evidence, and we'll come back and we'll look at that right at the end of this topic. Actually, many mergers fail to achieve their aims. Okay, so if you've got a number of those points, you may have some other ones as well, but add to the list anything that you didn't get. Okay, now this is a proper past paper question. This is certainly one that you guys will benefit from in terms of developing your knowledge and your understanding. And the question, the big heading says BAA must sell 3 UK airports, the watchdog rules. Okay, so that's really important. And underneath that, you've then got a question, and the question is in two parts. Why might some airlines and airport owners wish to take over some of BAA's airports? So why might some airlines, BAA, have been told they must sell 3 airports? Why might airlines wish to take over BAA's airports? And why might other airport owners wish to do so as well, such as the Manchester Airports Group? Now, obviously in the exam, you would just write, I've tried to structure this for you so that you think of both scenarios here. So why airlines might benefit, and I want you to think of that, and then why airports might also wish to take over some of BAA's airports. How would they benefit? Okay, so I'm going to give you several minutes on this. Hopefully by breaking the question down, that will alert you in future how many parts to such a question are there. You need to think about that. And then try and contextualize your answer. So you're talking about the airline industry. Try and make sure that you're doing things like wider reading, because the better you are read, obviously the more knowledge you have of as many industries as possible. I cannot stress that enough. No one is going to get a B or an A or above in economics without doing wider reading. So make sure you have a go at this, but bear that in mind. I now need to be writing up on growth, takeovers, mergers, and coming up with those examples. Okay, I'll pause it and I'll give you 4 minutes on each one, 8 minutes in total. Let's see how you guys did. I will have gone and asked questions, but have a look at the answers that came up in class compared to some of these. So in terms of airlines taking over airports, well, easier to plan your schedules. Okay, and as a result of that, there might be benefits. You get lower landing charges. They're not going to be free, okay, but lower landing fees might be important, and that would help an airline to lower their airfares. Maybe it's a benefit of diversification, which means they will have more sales and hopefully profits. An airline might actually be able to improve an airport's facilities so that the whole standard of service from someone booking a flight through to actually taking the flight and arriving the other end is improved. I've mentioned the extra revenue already, and perhaps in terms of reputation, the brand may be improved in terms of image, and that might lead to more investors and so on. So try and think of some of those points. The second part of the question said, why do some airports wish to take over other airports? Well, it might be that they're seeking to gain a portfolio of larger airports. One of the key clues in this was BAA must sell. If you must sell, it's likely that you get it more cheaply because it's a forced sale. Okay, so keep your eyes open for the hints. And this undoubtedly would be quicker and cheaper than if an airport wanted to increase sales organically. Also as well, obviously, if there is this merger, this takeover, potentially there are cost savings from rationalization. Okay, so some good points there, contextualized as much as possible. Okay, pushing on in your notes, and you should be on page 57 now. In terms of evidence on takeovers and mergers, and how would you judge if a merger or takeover has been successful? And one of the ways you can think of that is, does the profit level after the merger or takeover, so a year later, the next financial year, does the profit level after integration exceed the combined profits of the two individual firms before integration? Okay, that is clearly a good indicator. Now, there's quite a number of takeovers and mergers who don't achieve their aims. Sometimes this is because of high financial costs. Sometimes it doesn't increase profits and hence shareholder value. It might be because of concerns, so the Competition and Markets Authority, so for example a control of linkages, so that idea of vertical integration, too much power and too much control in the industry. Obviously one of the most important ones is that idea of rationalization and it leading to significant job losses. Mentioned the potential fall in profits of the combined company, and also that may happen in terms of revenue as well. Okay, so some key ideas there on actually why takeovers and mergers often fail to be successful. Okay, something that you guys should be aware of. This is a potential question that could come up, potential advantage of mergers and takeovers, and also potential advantages and disadvantages, and again try and think of those counterpoints. Okay, so economies of scale on the one side, but in terms of economies of scale, so possible lower prices, well, where's the counter argument? Well, potentially that may lead to diseconomies of scale. Economies of scale, but quite often these in the real world aren't successful. So again, I suppose a question mark over that one. Again, in terms of economies of scale and increased competitiveness internationally, well, that may lead to macroeconomic benefits, so growth, employment, balance of payments and so on, but again look at the counter arguments. So other advantages, better technology, production techniques. One of the things I would say is that in terms of businesses, quite often over time they use more modern technology, and as a result, even though they benefit from economies of scale and lower costs and that use of technology, that international competitiveness that gets increased, what actually happens is that even though there may be more output, employment doesn't necessarily go up. But what does happen is that jobs become, the jobs that survive are more secure. And that's an important point. That's a nice benefit. But thinking of the real world rather than just more output means more jobs. Okay, not often, but it does mean more secure jobs. Something else to be concerned about may lead to anti-competitive practices, and obviously the Competition and Markets Authority would be concerned with that, and it may also lead to concerns not just with the UK but also with the EU. Obviously, at the moment, British or UK competition policy is aligned with EU competition policy. Will that continue into the future post-Brexit? Who knows? Okay, but this in front of you is a possible essay question. Okay, good idea to get those points down, maybe in the space provided on page 58. Okay, just in terms of what we should have covered through this little series of 3 videos, can you guys identify reasons why firms continue to survive and are successful for small firms? Go back to your notes if you can't. Outline using examples ways in which firms can grow. Remember, you need those contextualized examples of real world firms and how they've benefited. So be able to provide those examples. Possible benefits of growth, internal and external, go back to that, and then just make sure that you can judge the evidence in terms of the success of takeovers and mergers. Okay, that should cover the growth topic. Please make sure you go back and cement this key knowledge. It will be needed in the exams.